Ready? Hi, this is a regular meeting of Public Works. We're calling it to order on October 15th. It's 7:50. Want to thank Channel 79 for being here tonight, and I want to review and approve the minutes from the special meeting of October 24th. I personally have one small... April 24th, I'm sorry. April 24th. 2019. I have one small correction, which is section 1, the last sentence. It should be complemented instead of complemented. If you look at that, it's just a change. Does anyone else have any corrections? No. Could I have a motion to approve?
I move.
Okay.
I'll second.
Perfect. Motion passed. So now we'll go over the town generator project. We're just at the planning and, the Board of Finance meeting where Ed gave a presentation on this. He also gave a presentation to Planning and Zoning on October 1st. It was televised by Channel 79.
So that's Ed Gentile, right? Director of Public Works.
Yes, Ed Gentile, sorry. Sorry, Ed Gentile. Yes, Chairman, Director of Public Works. I'll give just a very quick background. The generator was authorized, but there was no obligation to spend the money, but it was authorized for $250,000 at an RTM meeting on June 12th of 2017. It was approved by P&Z on October 1st, and it was approved by Board of Finance, tonight for an additional $75,000 expenditure. The current generator is considered too small and outdated. The new generator is a Kohler brand, if anybody cares. It is a diesel generator, and the reason that the Director of Public Works at Gentile is going with diesel is because the unit itself will be less expensive, about $75,000, and the piping will be about $20,000 less. So he's looking at a savings of about $100,000. The tank for the generator will be dropped into the site, so part of it will be buried about 3.5 feet below grade on one end and kind of flush on the other end. And if you go to, I actually went over there to see the site, and it'll be a very large area, but you'll see that it'll be pretty level with the ground, so it won't be an eyesore. It has... I'm sorry to interrupt. Just to be clear, it's not an underground tank. No.
It's above ground.
Yes.
But he's changing the grade so that it's concealed.
Right.
Is that fair?
That's correct. Yes. Correct. Eversource will be removing 4 transformers. So there's kind of a pit over there. It's got a big metal grate on it, and the transformers are underneath. They're taking those out, and Public Works will then be using that space themselves and for the work for the generator. The Eversource will be putting one large transformer kind of in front of where the new generator will be. Construction should start around October, November. It should finish around January to April, depending on the weather and what's found underneath this when they dig out this building area. The tank will be a 2,650-gallon tank, and Public Works also has a carrier that can bring in additional diesel fuel should there be a problem with sourcing it in the general public. Does anyone else have any comments?
Yes, I thought Ed made one interesting comment. He said that the capacity of the tank would allow the building to run at 100% load 24 hours a day for 3 days. And in his view, there's no way the building would ever run at 24 at that level. So he thought that effectively it was a 4 to 6 day supply of power in the tank.
Well, it's 3 days if it's Mather and Town Hall.
Okay.
All right, but it's 4 to 6 days if it's just Town Hall.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions?
you like a motion to approve?
Yes, I'd like a motion to authorize an increase of $75,000 to the June 12th, 2017 resolution authorizing the purchase and installation of a generator for Town Hall.
I'd like to make a motion to authorize an additional $75,000 added to the previously approved bonding for the installation of a new town generator as approved by the Board of Finance and P&Z.
I'd like to second that. I'll
All in
second it.
favor?
Let's vote.
Perfect, unanimous. Okay. The second item on the agenda, or whatever, third item, is the Locust Hill Sidewalk Project. And Ed Gentile, Director of Public Works, gave a great presentation at a public hearing on October 2nd. And there were 4 Public Works members from our committee that were there. Thank you very much for going, Rolf and Jim, and Liz, who was also there. Briefly, it's the intersection of Old Kings Highway South and Delafield Island. It's about 450 linear feet and about 5 feet wide. It'll be asphalt except for 2 on-ramps where you can roll on and off for handicapped access. There'll be 2 new catch basins set up to connect to the current 2. They did check with the neighbors twice in July and also in I think September, and they made modifications due to the neighbors' input. The start date will be next spring. It's about a 3 to 4 week project. The $75,000 that's budgeted for it has already been approved, and the Police Commission has approved it. This was Ed, at his public hearing meeting, did not have the Police Commission approval, but he does have it now. And next July, give or take around in that, July-ish, the road is scheduled to be paved. Any questions on that?
I don't know, the only thing that came to my mind was, and maybe it exists, I just may not know, but is there an overall plan for sidewalks for the town?
Yes, well, there is a plan. That's a really good question.
Because in my mind, this one project by itself is one thing, but to my mind, it opens up a question of, what are the standards that we follow in deciding a location that should have a sidewalk? Are there any standards to say it should be near where a school is, or where a park is, or local, or close to where train stations are, because people might want to walk to the train station?
Yes.
Are there any standards like that? And then secondly, the question was brought up at that meeting, at his presentation, as to why this particular sidewalk was being planned as an asphalt as opposed to concrete, which again then brings me back to my first question. Okay, what are the standards? Is the standard that it's always asphalt unless it's in town, then it would be concrete, or I don't know. I mean, concrete is, in my opinion, a superior product to asphalt. But then again, you have certain areas where the sidewalks may not have all that much traffic, and so it doesn't necessarily warrant that it has to be concrete. So, I mean, these are just, some thoughts that popped into my head as a result of going to the hearing.
Can I ask, what was his response on the asphalt versus concrete question?
He really didn't give a straight answer, I gotta be honest.
No, I can answer. Actually, I can answer. So to your first question, yes, the emphasis is always on sidewalks that are near schools. And the second question, as far as the asphalt goes, is asphalt is less expensive, so you can do twice as much asphalt as you can do concrete. But it's also, Public Works tries to fit in with the current environment, and the current environment on Locust Hill, except for the spot in front of Penny Glassmeyer, is all asphalt, and so he was looking to continue that. I did mention that the sidewalk, that there could be a cleanup in general on that sidewalk, which I think would.
Yeah, that came up in the hearing. Yeah.
Yes, and they're going to do that. They're going to go over and clean up along the side, which will help.
Yeah, the other thing I noticed that, because I drove by that area, is that on the other side, it's Highway South, Kings Highway South, okay? And there's no sidewalk on that side, so it's just, so it starts at the corner with Locust, what is it?
Locust Hill.
Locust Hill Road, and goes up Locust Hill Road, but nothing being addressed for the opposite side of the corner vis-a-vis Highway Kings South, so.
Right.
And there's also no crosswalk to get across Old Kings Highway South where it starts. So if you were downtown and wanted to walk underneath the highway, where there's, I believe, a sidewalk.
Yes.
Right? There's no crosswalk to get from there to where the new sidewalk is gonna start.
They're going to put one in.
Is they gonna add one? Okay. I mean, just then to Rolf, just to one other thought on the asphalt versus concrete. When we were doing the infrastructure, pedestrian infrastructure committee, what we heard then was that asphalt has a life of somewhere in the range of 20 to 30 years, but requires more maintenance because it's more susceptible to weathering. Concrete, to your point, Monica, is about double the price, but has a lifespan of 60 to 75 years and is much less maintenance over the life of the installation. So again, if we're too late to make a change on this, we're too late, but I guess this speaks to the need that Rolf, that you've identified of we need to have some kind of simple, understandable standards as to where we put in sidewalks and how we build them and why we build them and kind of what the, whether we need to specify dimensions or if there are standards out in the literature about how you should do this. We should probably have that available. So maybe we as a group need to think about for our next meeting, either requesting something from Ed or giving some guidance as to what we think the standards ought to be. Does that make sense? Because we've talked about this for a long time, but we don't really have a comprehensive plan. Like, here's the network that came out of that pedestrian infrastructure advisory group, and here's the gaps we want to fill.
Right.
Right. It still kind of feels haphazard.
Right.
Right. And that group did fantastic work, but we kind of need to continue to build on that.
Could use a dusting.
Yeah, and you could be able to plan out a little bit further in terms of if you're going to do an audit of all the sidewalks, then the plan could be able to, you could be able to look out a couple of years about what you think you're going to spend.
Right.
And, my thought was yours, like, how did this get chosen over other? Who was yelling loud enough that this was addressed first, right? So that would, a plan would go a ways to kind of make sure that doesn't happen.
So why don't we bring Ed in and let him explain to us in his own words? I think that's a great idea.
I think the Locust Hill might also have been addressed because I know I live in Tokenique, and for the last 10 years or so we've been hearing the issue that Locust Hill, a lot of families walk to that area, and they walk from the train station, and in the middle of the night, of course, there's no enough lights and there are cars speeding by, and rest of Tokenique has pedestrian walkways, so it was literally a small portion that was missing.
Right.
So I think the whole idea is that by doing a little area, we
Make a connection.
exactly, and it's like a big check mark in terms of safety, and so
Yeah.
that might be the reason. I'm not sure if that was the reason.
Yeah.
I know for over 10 years, some of the neighbors there have been speaking loudly about the safety issue over there.
Yeah, and I can see that, but also, on the other hand, you have Talmadge Hill, like, train station,
Exactly.
Which has been
got nothing.
out there for a
They've got
long
literally,
time.
I mean, when I see people walking, I mean, I commute there every day to get on the Merritt, and it's scary to see those people,
Out in the streets.
out in the
I
streets,
agree.
literally.
on
I don't
Hoyt.
disagree at all,
Yeah.
And I do echo the same sentiment of why we are going with asphalt instead of concrete, because the 50, 60-year life cycle is higher. And with the bond prices, I mean, if we needed to do all of these sidewalks in the next 5 years, and even if we bonded it, it would be cheaper to do it long-term than, do it and then keep maintaining it. And we all know what asphalt does.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's a great point. I mean, maybe there's an opportunity to propose. We've looked at this for a long time. We had our committee that studied it, and maybe there's a chance to say, look, let's do one big project. Let's get all the sidewalks in, let's fill all the gaps. And and it's gonna cost X million dollars, and I don't know what X is, right?
I don't
But,
know.
but if that's something that's bondable, then it doesn't, you know, it's a long-term project as opposed to hitting your operating budget. It addresses all kinds of deferred needs, right? And then kind of along with that, you would put in place a maintenance cycle. I know that Ed keeps a calendar of like which roads have been repaved when and which are due to get repaved. I think he keeps that fairly close to the vest because, again, to your point, everyone's clamoring for their road to get repaved right away. But he can manage that. That's part of his job, and he does a great job at it. So I would think that if we kind of did that as part of a major investment, that's something we could probably bond it as a big enough thing.
Okay. I think it would be worth having Ed come in and discuss the sidewalk.
Good to get refreshed on that topic.
Right, in general. But I will say that Edgerton, from West Elm to Middlesex, started today. Anything else on sidewalks?
Well, the only other, this might sound like a small point, but the only other thing that wasn't touched on in his presentation, not that he necessarily would, but I just hope that all the people that are going to have these sidewalks or already have sidewalks understand that their obligation is, as I understand it, is in the wintertime with the snowfall,
Yes.
they are obligated to clear the sidewalk.
Yes, that's a word, which is why some sidewalks don't get put in.
Yeah.
Yes, people, they inform the residents of that. Absolutely.
So, everybody's saying put in sidewalks, put in sidewalks. I just hope they understand that in doing so, they're also taking on responsibility
Right.
in the wintertime that they need to clear the sidewalk in front of their house.
Concrete sidewalks, they will be so much easier to clear. And we won't have the same problems that we have. I mean, my house has sidewalks, which are completely broken up, and that's the last house on Middlesex that has sidewalk. We can't even shovel the snow if we try to. There's enough icing that happens because of the lovely crevices.
Any other comments on sidewalk? Okay, any other new business?
This may be our last meeting before the election, and I just wanted to thank our chairwoman for doing such a fabulous job, especially earlier in the year when we were dealing with the bag referendum and ordinance and things like that. It's been a pleasure working with you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you.
Yes.
Here, here.
You're here.
Thank you. Well, it's been a great committee, and you guys did a tremendous amount of work and stayed in the game, stayed focused. And as far as I can tell, the bag ban seems to be
People are falling in line.
yeah, people are falling in line.
I just have to keep trying to remember to bring my bags with me when I go out.
Yeah.
Because I always bring something in and then I forget to bring my bags back out.
You know what I do is I open the door to the basement where the car is, and after I unload the bags, I just open the door and I throw the bags down the stairs. I hope you don't tape this. And that way, when I go down the stairs to get in my car, I trip over the bags, I grab them,
And then
put them in the
you
car.
remember.
Actually,
it
we
might.
do that. We throw them out on the front, front stoop, literally on the lawn. So we have to just
Right, and then you see them, and then you're like, oh, I need the bags. So it might not be, for everybody, but it's working for me.
And I've adopted the Costco model, which is if I'm only getting 3 or 4 items.
Yeah.
Just carry them.
Probably forgotten the bag already, so I.
So you just carry them.
I've done that too.
Exactly.
I'm typically doing that.
Yeah, well, it keeps your shopping under control.
Exactly.
Right? Because you can only carry so much, so. Okay. If
Make a motion to
there's-
adjourn.
Well, just one, something I just want to be clear on, because I'm still relatively new to the RTM. So elections will be coming up. And so do the committees get reformed after the election?
Yes, everybody who gets elected to the RTM or is an incumbent for another year submits a form, and the RTM Rules Committee looks at all the applications and which committees you'd like to be on, et cetera, and in their wisdom makes decisions about who goes on which committees,
Throw a dart?
Well said.
in their wisdom.
I think we can adjourn.
Okay.
Motion to adjourn.
I second.
Thank you.
All in
Adjourn.
favor?
All in favor.
Thank you.
I should have.